The stars stretched endlessly in every direction, their light faint and distant. The exploration vessel Eos drifted silently through the cold emptiness of space, its engines humming softly as it moved. Inside the ship, the crew went about their duties with quiet efficiency. They were a small team, but each member played an important role in the mission. Their task was simple: map uncharted regions of space and gather data that could help humanity better understand the universe. Alex Carter sat in the pilot's chair, his hands resting lightly on the controls. He had been flying ships like this for years, and he knew how to handle almost any situation. His dark hair was cut short, and his sharp blue eyes scanned the instruments in front of him with practiced ease. Across from him, Rachel Monroe sat. At her station, her fingers moving quickly over the keyboard as she analyzed the latest readings from the ship's scanners. She was calm and focused, her brown eyes reflecting the glow of the monitor. It had been weeks since they left Earth, and so far the mission had been routine. They had mapped several star systems and recorded information about planets, moons, and asteroids, but today felt different. Something about the way the scanners were behaving made Rachel uneasy. She frowned as she studied the data, leaning closer to the screen. "Hey, Alex," she said, her voice soft but curious. "Take a look at this." Alex turned his head slightly, glancing at her screen without fully leaving his post. "What is it?" he asked, his tone casual but attentive. Rachel hesitated before answering. "I'm not sure yet. The scanners are picking up something unusual ahead. At first I thought it might be a rogue planet or maybe a cluster of asteroids, but—" Her voice trailed off as she scrolled through the numbers again. "But what?" Alex pressed, now more interested. He swiveled his chair to face her directly. Rachel took a deep breath. "It's big. Really big," she pointed to a set of readings on the screen. "These numbers don't make sense. It's registering as larger than anything we've ever encountered." "Larger than Earth?" Alex raised an eyebrow. "You mean like bigger than Jupiter?" Rachel nodded slowly. "Yes, bigger than Jupiter." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The idea seemed impossible. Nothing natural or even artificial should be that large. Space was vast, but objects of that scale simply didn't exist in their understanding of the universe. Alex leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. Could it be a glitch? "Maybe the scanners are malfunctioning," Rachel shook her head. "I thought of that too, but I've run diagnostics twice already." "Everything checks out. Whatever it is, it's real." Before they could discuss it further, Captain Lavra Hayes entered the bridge. She was a tall woman with short blonde hair and a commanding presence. Her green eyes scanned the room, taking in the expressions of her crew before settling on Rachel. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice firm but calm. Rachel stood up, turning to face the captain. "We've detected something unusual ahead, ma'am. The scanners are showing an object of unprecedented size. It's difficult to explain, but it's unlike anything we've seen before." Lavra stepped closer, studying the data on Rachel's screen. After a moment, she looked up, her expression thoughtful. "How far away is it?" "About 6 hours at our current speed," Rachel replied. "But we'll need to adjust our course slightly to get a better view," Lavra nodded. "Do it. Let's see what we're dealing with. Keep me updated." As Rachel adjusted the ship's trajectory, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The idea of encountering something so massive and potentially unknown was both thrilling and unsettling. He glanced at Rachel, who was still focused on her work. "Do you think it's alien?" he asked quietly. Rachel shrugged. "It's hard to say. Could be. Or it could be some kind of natural phenomenon we don't understand yet. Either way, it's definitely worth investigating." The next few hours passed slowly. The crew prepared for whatever they might find, running additional tests and double-checking their equipment. Jason Cole, the communications officer, tried repeatedly to hail the object, but there was no response. "If it's intelligent," he muttered to himself, "it's not talking." Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the Eos drew close enough to get a clear view. What they saw left them speechless. The object was indeed massive, its surface stretching farther than the eye could see. It wasn't a planet or an asteroid. It was shaped like a ship, or at least something man-made. Its metallic hull gleamed faintly under the light of a nearby star, and strange patterns covered its surface, shimmering like veins beneath the skin. "It's beautiful," Emily Dawson whispered. She was the ship's engineer, a petite woman with curly red hair and a knack for fixing things. Her wide eyes reflected awe as she stared at the sight before them. Lavra crossed her arms, her expression unreadable. "Beautiful or not, we need answers. Prepare a shuttle. We're going in." Alex volunteered immediately, along with Rachel. And Emily, they suited up and boarded the shuttle, leaving the safety of the EOS behind. As they approached the colossal structure, the sheer scale of it became even more apparent. It dwarfed their tiny shuttle, making them feel insignificant in comparison. The entrance was a gaping hole in the side of the ship, dark and foreboding. As they flew closer, the air inside grew colder, and the temperature gauges on their instruments began to drop rapidly. Once inside, the shuttle landed on a smooth, metallic floor, and the team stepped out cautiously. The interior was dimly lit by glowing panels embedded in the walls, casting eerie shadows across the corridors. Everything about the place felt strange, as though it defied the laws of physics. The walls seemed to pulse faintly, almost like they were alive. Alex reached out to touch one, but Rachel stopped him. "We don't know what this place is made of," she warned. "Be careful." Emily nodded, pulling out a handheld scanner. "Let's stick together and stay alert. This place gives me the creeps." As they ventured deeper into the ship, the atmosphere grew heavier. The air was thick and cold, and the silence was oppressive. Every step echoed loudly, breaking the stillness. Despite their unease, the team pressed on, driven by a mix of fear and curiosity. Whatever this place was, it held secrets that could change everything they thought they knew about the universe, and somewhere deep within the ship, something stirred. The team moved cautiously through the corridors of the massive structure, their footsteps echoing softly against the metallic walls. The air felt heavier with each step they took, and the temperature continued to drop. Emily Dawson adjusted the settings on her handheld scanner, trying to make sense of the readings it was picking up. "This place is giving off some kind of energy signature," she said, her voice low but steady. "It's not like anything I've seen before." Rachel Monroe walked beside her, her eyes scanning the walls and ceiling. The glowing panels embedded in the surface pulsed faintly, casting an eerie light that seemed to shift and change as they moved. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, though there was no one or nothing visible in the shadows. "Do you think this ship is still operational?" she asked, glancing at Emily. Emily shrugged. "Hard to say. The energy readings suggest it might be, but if it is, it's running on technology way beyond what we've got back home." She paused for a moment, then added, "Or maybe it's just alive." Alex Carter, who was walking slightly ahead of them, turned his head to look back. "Alive? You mean like a living ship?" "I don't know," Emily admitted. "But these walls, they're reacting to us, look." She pointed to one of the glowing panels. As they stood still, the light dimmed slightly, almost as if it were responding to their presence. Rachel frowned. "If this thing is alive, we need to be careful. We don't know what it wants or if it even knows we're here." The group pressed on, their movements slow and deliberate. The corridors twisted and turned unpredictably, making it hard to keep track of where they had come from. Alex kept his hand near the weapon strapped to his side, though he wasn't sure how much. Good, it would do against something this advanced or this strange. After several minutes of walking, they came to a large chamber that opened up before them. The room was vast, its ceiling disappearing into darkness far above. In the center of the space stood a towering structure, a machine of some kind, its surface covered in intricate patterns that shimmered faintly. Strange symbols floated around, it glowing faintly in the dim light. "This is incredible," Rachel whispered, her voice filled with awe. She stepped closer to the machine, her eyes wide as she studied the symbols. "These look like constellations, ancient ones." Emily joined her, pulling out her scanner again. "Whatever this thing is, it's generating a lot of power. More than the rest of the ship combined." She hesitated, then added, I think it's some kind of core, maybe the heart of the whole system. Alex stayed near the entrance, keeping watch. He didn't trust this place, not yet. Something about it felt wrong, like it was holding its breath, waiting for the right moment to strike. We should grab what we can and get out of here, he said. We don't know how stable this thing is, Rachel nodded reluctantly. You're probably right, but let me take a few more scans first. This could be our only chance to learn something about whoever or whatever built this ship. As Rachel worked, Emily wandered over to one of the walls. She ran her fingers lightly over its surface, feeling the faint vibrations beneath her touch. This material, it's not metal, she said thoughtfully. At least, not any kind of metal I've ever seen. It feels organic. Before anyone could respond, the ground beneath them trembled suddenly. A low rumble echoed through the chamber, growing louder with each passing second. The glowing symbols around the machine flared brightly, bathing the room in an intense, otherworldly light. What's happening? Alex shouted, raising his weapon instinctively. I don't know. Emily replied, her voice tinged with panic. She rushed back toward the others, clutching her scanner tightly. Something's activating. Rachel grabbed her equipment and slung it over her shoulder. We need to move, now. The team turned and ran back the way they had come, their footsteps pounding against the floor. The corridors behind them began to shift and change, the walls folding inward as if the ship itself were alive and trying to trap them. Lights flickered wildly, casting chaotic shadows that made it hard to see. Keep moving, Alex yelled, leading the way. He glanced over his shoulder to make sure the others were still with him. We're almost there. The exit was just ahead, a gaping hole that led back to the shuttle. But as they reached it, the ground shook violently, nearly knocking them off their feet. From the darkness behind them came a sound unlike anything they had ever heard, a deep, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate through their very bones. We're not alone. Rachel gasped, her face pale with fear, as they scrambled onto the shuttle. Alex spared one last glance back. What he saw froze him in place for a split second. Emerging from the shadows were towering figures, beings that seemed to be part flesh and part machine. Their forms shifted and reformed as they moved, their glowing eyes fixed on the fleeing humans. Go! 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 Alex shouted, slamming the shuttle door shut behind him. He sprinted to the cockpit and fired up the engines, his hands moving quickly over the controls. Outside, the figures stopped at the edge of the opening, watching silently as the shuttle lifted off. Back inside the EOS, Jason Cole's voice crackled over the comms. What's going on down there? We're picking up massive energy spikes. Just get us out of here, Lavra Hayes ordered from the bridge. Her voice was calm but urgent. Full power to the engines. The shuttle docked moments later, and the crew scrambled aboard the main ship. As soon as everyone was secure, Lavra gave the order to leave. The EOS surged forward, its engines roaring as it pulled away from the colossal structure. From the observation window, they watched as the ship began to transform. Sections of its hull detached, revealing hidden mechanisms beneath. It wasn't just awakening, it was preparing to move. Where's it going? Emily asked, her voice trembling. I don't know, Rachel replied, her eyes glued to the sight. Outside, but I think we just woke it up. The massive ship surged forward, disappearing into the depths of space. The crew of the EOS stared in stunned silence, their minds racing with questions they couldn't answer. What had they just encountered, and what did it mean for the future? For now, all they could do was continue their journey, carrying with them the knowledge that they had barely scratched the surface of something far greater and far stranger than they had ever imagined. The EOS drifted silently through space, its engines humming softly as the crew tried to process what they had just witnessed. The massive ship, alive, sentient, and impossibly ancient, had vanished into the void, leaving behind more questions than answers. Back on the bridge, Captain Lavarhe stood with her arms crossed, her expression unreadable as she stared out at the stars. Rachel Monroe sat at her station, reviewing the data they had collected during their brief encounter. Emily Dawson paced nervously near the back of the room while Alex Carter leaned against a wall, his eyes distant as he replayed the events in his mind. Jason Cole, the communications officer, broke the silence. "We should try hailing it again," he suggested. His voice was calm, but there was an edge of frustration in his tone. "Maybe it didn't hear us before." Rachel shook her head without looking up from her screen. "It heard us," said quietly. "I'm sure of it. Those beings we saw, they were watching us. They knew we were there. But they didn't attack," Alex pointed out. "If that thing wanted to destroy us, it could have done it easily. Instead, it just let us go." "Maybe it didn't see us as a threat," Emily chimed in. "Or maybe it has bigger things to worry about." Lavra turned to face her crew, her green eyes sharp and focused. "We need to figure out what that thing is, or was, and why it's here. Whatever it is, it's not natural. And if it's capable of moving, it could be heading somewhere important." Rachel nodded slowly. "I've been analyzing the symbols we found inside. Some of them match constellations from Earth's ancient myths: Orion, Cassiopeia, the Pleiades, but others don't correspond to anything in our records. It's like they're showing us parts of the sky we haven't discovered yet." "That doesn't make sense," Jason said, frowning. "How could something know about stars that haven't formed yet?" "It's possible," Rachel replied, her voice thoughtful. "If this ship is as old as it seems, it might have traveled across millions or even billions of years. What we saw could be a map of the future, not the present." The room fell, silent as everyone considered the implications. If the ship truly came from another time, then humanity's understanding of the universe was woefully incomplete. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. Emily walked over to Rachel's station, peering at the screen. "What about the machine in the center of that chamber? Did you get any readings on that?" Rachel hesitated before answering. "Yes, but I'm still trying to piece it together. It's giving off energy signatures unlike anything I've ever seen. It's like a fusion of organic and mechanical processes. Part living tissue, part advanced technology." Alex straightened. Up his brow furrowed. "So this ship isn't just a vessel. It's alive and intelligent." "Possibly," Rachel admitted. "But if it is, we don't know how it thinks or what it wants." Lavra stepped forward, her voice firm. "We can't dwell on this forever. We need to decide our next move. Do we follow it, or do we report back to Earth and let someone else handle it?" Jason glanced at her. "Following it might be dangerous. We don't know where it's going or what it's capable of." "But reporting back means losing the chance to learn more," Rachel countered. "This could be the most important discovery in human history. If we walk away now, we'll regret it." Emily nodded in agreement. "She's right. We can't just leave. Not after seeing what we saw?" Alex looked at Lavia, waiting for her decision. He trusted her judgment, but he also knew how risky it would be to pursue the ship. Still, the idea of letting it slip away felt wrong. There was something about it, something mysterious and profound that drew him in. After a long pause, Lavra finally spoke. "We'll follow it for now, but we stay cautious. If things get too dangerous, we turn back, understood?" The crew murmured their agreement, and the tension in the room eased slightly. Lavra gave the order to adjust their course, and the EOS began to move, trailing the massive ship from a safe distance. Hours passed as the crew monitored their quarry. The colossal structure moved steadily through space, its trajectory clear and deliberate. Occasionally, sections of its hull would shift or glow faintly, as though it were alive and breathing. Rachel spent most of her time analyzing the data they had gathered, piecing together fragments of information that might shed light on its purpose. Late into the night, Alex joined her on the bridge. She was hunched over her console, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she worked. He grabbed a chair and pulled it up beside her. "You should get some rest," he said gently. "You've been at this for hours." Rachel glanced at him briefly before returning her focus to the screen. "I will soon. I just need to finish this." "What are you looking at?" he asked, leaning closer. She pointed to a series of symbols displayed on the monitor. "These are the ones we found inside the ship. I think they're messages, warnings, maybe." Some of them seemed to depict disasters, planets breaking apart, stars collapsing, entire galaxies being consumed by darkness. Alex frowned. That sounds bad, really bad. It is, Rachel agreed. But there's more. Mixed in with the warnings are images of survival people finding shelter, building new worlds, starting over. It's like the creators of this ship wanted to tell us two things. First, that danger is coming. And second, that there's hope if we prepare for it. Alex sat back, processing her words. Do you think the ship itself is the warning? Like it's carrying this message to whoever it finds? Maybe, Rachel said. Or maybe it's more than that. Maybe it's a tool away to fight whatever's coming. Before Alex could respond, the ship's alarms blared suddenly, startling them both. Jason's voice came over the comms. Captain! Something's happening to the big ship. It's changing course. Lavra rushed onto the bridge, followed by Emily. What's going on? She demanded. Rachel quickly pulled up the scanner readings. It's accelerating, fast, and it's heading toward a nearby star system. Why? Emily asked her. Voice tinged with worry. Is it attacking? Looking for resources? I don't know, Rachel admitted. But we need to keep following it. This could be our only chance to understand its purpose. Lavra nodded. Hold on, everyone. We're going in. The EOS increased speed, keeping pace with the massive ship as it entered the star system. Ahead of them lay a small rocky planet, orbiting a dying sun. Its surface was barren and cracked, scarred by eons of neglect. As the colossal ship approached, beams of light shot out from its hull, scanning the planet's surface. What's it doing? Alex asked, his voice tight. With anticipation, Rachel studied the readings closely. It's searching for something. Maybe signs of life or remnants of an old civilization. Suddenly, the ground on the planet began to tremble. Massive cracks spread across its surface, revealing hidden structures buried deep beneath the soil. Towers of stone and metal rose into the air, their surfaces covered in the same shimmering patterns they had seen inside the ship. It's activating something, Emily whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. Something that's been buried for millions of years? The crew watched in stunned silence as the planet transformed before their eyes. Lights flickered to life across its surface, and strange machines hummed softly, awakening from their long slumber. The massive ship hovered above, its presence commanding and watchful. This isn't just a warning, Rachel said softly, her voice filled with awe. It's a key, a way to unlock something ancient and powerful. As the scene unfolded below them, the crew of the EOS realized they were witnessing something far greater than themselves. The mysteries of the universe were beginning to unravel one thread at a time. And whether they liked it or not, they were now part of the story. The crew of the EOS watched in stunned silence as the planet below them came to life. The once barren surface was now alive with movement, its hidden structures rising from the ground like ancient giants awakening from a long slumber. Lights flickered across the landscape, illuminating towering machines and intricate patterns etched into the stone and metal. It was as though the massive ship hovering above had triggered some kind of resurrection, bringing the dead world back to life. Rachel Monroe stared at the scene on the main monitor, her hands gripping the edge of her console tightly. This isn't just a message, she said softly, almost to herself. It's a system, a network. What do you mean? Alex Carter asked, his voice low but urgent. He stood beside her, his eyes fixed on the glowing planet below. Rachel hesitated before answering. I think this planet is part of something bigger, something connected to that ship. Maybe it's a piece of a larger puzzle designed to work together. Emily Dawson, who had been pacing nervously near the back of the bridge, stopped and turned to face Rachel. You're saying this place wasn't abandoned, it was waiting? For what? For us, Rachel replied. Or for someone like us. Whoever built this ship must have known that someday someone would find it and use it. Captain Lavra Hayes stepped forward, her expression calm but intense. We need to figure out why this is happening. What does it want from us? Jason Cole, the communications officer, adjusted his headset and frowned. Still no response. From the ship, whatever it's doing, it's not talking to us. Lavra nodded. Then we'll have to go down there and see for ourselves. The shuttle descended slowly toward the planet's surface, its engines humming softly as it navigated through the glowing haze that now enveloped the world. The air was thick with energy, crackling faintly as the team prepared to disembark. Alex piloted the craft carefully, his hands steady on the controls despite the growing tension in the cabin. "We're landing near one of those towers," he announced, pointing to a massive structure rising from the ground ahead. Its surface shimmered with the same patterns they had seen inside the ship, pulsing faintly in rhythm with the lights around them. As soon as the shuttle touched down, the team suited up and stepped outside. The ground beneath their feet felt strange, solid, yet slightly warm, as if it were alive. The air was cool but carried an electric charge that made the hairs on their arms stand on end. "This place feels wrong," Emily muttered, glancing around nervously. She adjusted the settings on her scanner, trying to make sense of the readings. "The energy levels here are off the charts." Rachel nodded, her eyes scanning the surroundings. "Be careful. We don't know what we're dealing with." They approached the tower cautiously, its sheer size making them feel small and insignificant. Up close, the patterns covering its surface seemed even more intricate, shifting and changing as though reacting to their presence. Alex reached out to touch the wall, but Rachel grabbed his arm. "Don't," she warned. "We don't know what will happen." Before anyone could respond, a low hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. The patterns on the tower began to glow brighter, casting sharp shadows across the ground. Then, without warning, a section of the wall slid open, revealing a dark passageway leading inside. "Well," Alex said dryly. "That's inviting." Rachel stepped forward, her scanner in hand. "Let's go, but stay close." The interior of the tower was dimly lit by the same bioluminescent panels they had seen in the ship. The walls pulsed faintly, creating an eerie, otherworldly atmosphere. As they moved deeper into the structure, strange symbols appeared on the walls, floating in midair like holograms. "These look familiar," Rachel said, stopping to examine them. "They're similar to the ones we saw earlier, but different, more complex." Emily leaned closer, her brow furrowed. "What do they mean?" "I'm not sure yet," Rachel admitted. "But I think they're instructions, or maybe coordinates." Alex glanced over his shoulder, keeping watch. "Instructions for what?" "How to operate this thing." "Maybe," Rachel replied, "or how to activate it." The group continued down the corridor, their footsteps echoing softly against the metallic floor. The air grew colder as they went, and the hum that had greeted them outside became almost deafening. Finally, they reached a large chamber at the heart of the tower. In the center of the room stood another machine smaller than the one they had seen in the ship, but no less impressive. Its surface was covered in glowing symbols that shifted and changed constantly, as though it were thinking, "This is it," Rachel whispered, her voice filled with awe. "This is the key." "Two." "What?" Alex asked, his tone skeptical. "To whatever this place was built for," Rachel explained. "I think it's a control system, a way to communicate with the ship, or maybe even control it." Emily stepped closer, her scanner beeping rapidly. "There's a lot of power flowing through this thing. If we mess with it, we could trigger something big." "We don't have a choice," Rachel said firmly. "If we don't figure this out, we might never understand why that ship is here or what it wants." Before anyone could argue, the machine began to react. The symbols on its surface flared brightly, and a stream of data flooded into Rachel's mind, not words, but images and emotions. She gasped, clutching her head as visions flashed before her eyes, planets breaking apart, stars collapsing, entire civilizations vanishing in the blink of an eye. But mixed in with the destruction were glimpses of hope, new worlds being born, people rebuilding, life finding a way to survive. "It's showing me," Rachel stammered, struggling to speak. "It's showing me the future and the past, everything." "What do you see?" Lavra asked, her voice tense. Rachel took a deep breath, forcing herself to focus. "A warning. Something is coming, something that will destroy everything unless we stop it." But there's also a solution, a way to fight back. What kind of solution? Alex pressed. Rachel shook her head. I don't know yet, but it has something to do with the ship, and with this place. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled violently. The machine let out a loud, resonant hum, and the symbols on its surface began to spin rapidly. Outside, the planet itself seemed to come alive, its structures glowing brighter and brighter until the entire surface was bathed in light. We need to get out of here, Alex shouted, grabbing Rachel's arm. No, Rachel protested, pulling away. We can't leave yet, there's more. The planet's destabilizing, Emily yelled, her scanner flashing wildly. If we don't go now, we won't make it. Laura stepped forward, her voice firm. That's enough. Everyone back to the shuttle, now. Reluctantly, Rachel followed the others as they raced back through the corridors. Behind them, the tower began to collapse, its walls folding inward as the machine continued to hum. By the time they reached the shuttle, the entire planet was shaking violently, its surface cracking apart. Alex fired up the engines and lifted off just as the ground gave way beneath them. Through the windows, they watched as the planet transformed once again, this time breaking apart completely. Massive chunks of rock and metal floated into space, carried away by the force of the explosion. What did we just do? Emily asked, her voice trembling. We didn't do anything, Rachel replied. That ship did. It activated the planet and then destroyed it. But why? Alex demanded. Why would it do that? Rachel hesitated before answering. I think it was testing us, seeing if we were ready. Ready for what? Lavra asked sharply. For whatever comes next, Rachel said quietly, because it's coming, and we need to be prepared. As the shuttle docked with the EOS, the crew gathered on the bridge, their faces pale and their minds racing. The massive ship was still visible in the distance, its presence looming over them like a silent guardian or a harbinger of doom. Whatever its purpose, one thing was clear: humanity's fate was now tied to it, whether they liked it or not. The crew of the EOS sat in silence on the bridge, their eyes glued to the main monitor. The massive ship still hovered in the distance, its surface shimmering faintly under the light of a nearby star. It had destroyed the planet they had just visited, but it wasn't moving away. Instead, it seemed to be waiting, watching them. Rachel Monroe leaned back in her chair, her mind racing as she tried to make sense of everything they had seen. The visions she had experienced inside the tower were still fresh in her mind. Destruction, survival, hope, and despair all rolled into one overwhelming message. She glanced at Captain LeVar Hayes, who stood near the front of the bridge with her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. What do we do now? Alex Carter asked, breaking the silence. His voice was quiet but carried a note of urgency. We can't just sit here. Lavra turned to face him, her green eyes sharp and focused. We wait, she said firmly. If that ship wanted to destroy us, it would have done it already. For now, it's giving us time to think and decide. Decide what? Emily, Dawson asked nervously. She sat at her station, fiddling with her scanner as if trying to distract herself from the tension in the room. We don't even know what it wants from us. We know one thing, Rachel interjected. It's not hostile, at least, not yet. Everything it's done so far has been deliberate. The planet, the tower, the machine, it's all part of some kind of plan. And I think we're part of it too. Jason Cole, the communications officer, frowned. But why us? There are billions of people back on Earth. Why pick us? Maybe it didn't pick us, Rachel replied thoughtfully. Maybe it picked anyone who could find it. We just happened to be the first. Alex shook his head. That doesn't feel right. This ship is too advanced, too intelligent to leave things to chance. It knew we were coming, or it made sure we'd come. Lavra nodded slowly. Either way, we need to figure out our next move. If this ship really is preparing for something big, we can't afford to ignore it. Hours passed as the crew debated their options. Some, like Jason, argued that they should report back to Earth immediately and let someone else handle the situation. Others, like Rachel and Emily, insisted that leaving now would mean abandoning the chance to learn more about the ship, and potentially save humanity from whatever threat it was warning them about. Finally, Lavara made her decision. "We'll stay for now," she announced, "but we'll keep our distance and monitor the ship closely. If anything changes, we'll reassess." The crew agreed reluctantly, knowing there was no perfect answer. They adjusted the ESS position, keeping the ship within range of their scanners but far enough away to avoid provoking it. As they settled into their new routine, Rachel spent most of her time analyzing the data they had collected. She pored over the symbols, readings, and recordings, searching for any clue that might help them understand the ship's purpose. Late one night, as the rest of the crew slept, Rachel sat alone on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the glowing screen in front of her. She replayed the visions she had seen in the tower over and over again, trying to piece together their meaning. Slowly, a pattern began to emerge. The images of destruction weren't random, they depicted specific events, each tied to a particular location in the galaxy. The same was true for the scenes of survival. Together, they formed a mappa timeline of disasters and safe havens stretching across millions of years. Rachel's heart raced as she realized what she was looking at. "It's not just a warning," she whispered to herself. "It's a guide, a way to survive." She quickly pulled up the ship's star charts, overlaying the locations from the visions onto the map. To her amazement, they lined up perfectly. Each disaster corresponded to a known astronomical event: supernova, black holes, asteroid impacts, all set to occur in the distant future, but the safe zones were less clear. Some were marked by planets or moons, while others pointed to empty space. Before she could delve deeper, the ship's alarms blared suddenly, startling her. Lights flashed across the bridge as the sensors detected a massive surge of energy emanating from the colossal structure. Rachel scrambled to her feet, calling out to the sleeping crew, "Everyone, wake up! Something's happening!" Within moments, the entire team was on the bridge, their faces groggy but alert. On the main monitor, the massive ship was glowing brighter than ever before. Its hull expanded outward, unfolding like a flower blooming in fast motion. Sections of its surface detached, revealing hidden mechanisms beneath. Beams of light shot out in all directions, scanning the surrounding space. "It's activating," Alex said, his voice tight with anticipation. "What's it doing?" "I don't know," Rachel admitted, "but I think it's getting ready to leave." As if on cue, the ship began to move. It surged forward, accelerating rapidly as it headed toward a distant star system. The crew watched, in stunned silence as it disappeared into the void, leaving behind only a faint trail of light. "Well," Jason muttered, breaking the silence. "I guess that's it. It's gone." "No," Rachel said firmly. "Not completely." She pointed to her console, where the map she had created was still displayed. "It left us something. A message and a choice." "What kind of choice?" Lavra asked sharply. Rachel hesitated before answering. "The choice to follow it or to stay behind. To prepare for what's coming or to pretend it's not real." The room fell silent as everyone considered her words. The ship had shown, in the future, both good and bad. It had given them the tools to survive, but also the responsibility to act. After a long pause, Lavra finally spoke. "Then we follow it. Whatever lies ahead, we'll face it together." The crew nodded in agreement, their fear tempered by determination. They adjusted the EOS course, setting off after the massive ship. As they moved through space, Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that they were being guided, not forced, but gently nudged toward their destiny. Days turned into weeks as they trailed the ship, following its path through uncharted regions of the galaxy. Along the way, they encountered strange phenomena, planets with impossible orbits, stars that burned cold instead of hot, and nebulae that seemed to pulse with life. Each discovery added to their understanding of the universe and of themselves. Eventually, they reached a star system unlike any they had seen before. At its center was a massive black hole, its gravity warping the fabric of space-time around it. Orbiting the black hole was a ring of debris-shattered planets, broken moons, and fragments of ancient civilizations. And in the middle of it all, floated a single, intact structure, another tower, identical to the one they had found on the dying planet. "This is it?" Rachel said softly, her voice filled with awe. "This is where it ends or begins." The EOS approached cautiously, its engines humming softly as the crew prepared to disembark. When they stepped outside, they were greeted by an eerie silence. The air was thick with energy, and the ground beneath their feet felt warm, almost alive. As they entered the tower, they found themselves in a chamber similar to the one they had seen before. In the center stood another machine, its surface covered in glowing symbols, but this time the symbols were different. They pulsed rhythmically, forming words in a language none of them recognized, but somehow understood. "The time has come," the machine intoned, its voice deep and resonant. "Choose wisely," Rachel stepped forward, her heart pounding. "What do you want from us?" "You have seen the future," the machine replied. "Now you must decide how to shape it. Will you stand and fight, or will you flee?" The crew exchanged uneasy glances. They had known this moment would come, but now that it was here, the weight of the decision pressed down on them. Finally, Lara stepped forward, her voice firm and unwavering. "We'll fight," she declared. "Whatever comes, we'll face it together," the machine hummed softly, its glow intensifying. "Then your journey begins anew. Prepare yourselves. The battle for the future starts now." As the machine powered down, the crew of the EOS stood in silence, their minds racing with questions they couldn't yet answer. But one thing was clear: they had chosen their path, and no matter what lay ahead, they would walk it together.